Ah, Twisted Metal. The name alone brings back memories of jamming on the old PlayStation with my friends and rocking out to its excellent soundtrack. The rules were simple. Choose a vehicle, sit back, and annihilate the competition, usually with heat-seeking missiles and nuclear explosions. So how can a game which first appeared back on shelves in 1995 possibly become a TV show in 2023? Well, spoilers are ahead, so make sure to check out the show streaming on the Peacock Network, and let's find out.
So if I'm here, then the exit is... Oh, they have a Foot Locker. Oh,
Twisted Metal had an excellent run of success with its video series spawning 10 different versions of sequels, chapters, spin-offs, and an online engine. The concept is a battle royale-style car chase extravaganza, which pits multiple contestants in various locations who face off against each other until there's only one standing. The winner would be granted a single wish. Each character had their own vehicle and style, equipped with unique weapons. You had to choose wisely as each selection brought with it its own skill set. While there was a story to be told in the gameplay, most of the fun would be had just driving around trying to nuke the other contestants out of the way. You could hang back and try your luck from long range, but when the action gets close, then all hell breaks loose, creating a fun and adrenaline-rushing game. Thankfully, the TV show takes the main concept of the game, kicks things off with an origin story of sorts, and mostly stays within the spirit of its history. In a post-apocalyptic world, Anthony Mackie stars as John Doe, a transporter of goods who gets hired by various people to bring or return items across the dangerous landscape the world has become. Known as a milkman, John, along with his trusty vehicle he is named Evelyn, is one of the best at what he does. In the first episode, John is recruited by Raven, played by Neve Campbell, to pick up an item in New Chicago and bring it back. If he is successful, he will be granted citizenship and will be able to start his life over in a safe and seemingly assuring environment. Enticed by the thought of finally having a home after years of being alone and having a very dangerous way of getting by, John agrees to take on the mission. Only trouble is he isn't aware that Raven has some other plans in mind if he does in fact return. Being a fan of the game, the TV show brings with it some pretty good fun during its 10-episode first season. The show has a formula to it which is basically John running into trouble at every new location each episode, introducing us to new characters, some good and some bad. Early on, he crosses paths with a mysterious woman named Quiet. The pair unwillingly team up to get out of a bad situation, but end up sticking together during the season's run, allowing for a relationship side quest to play out. Quiet has some unfinished business with the boss of a group of mercenaries named Agent Stone, played by the Sandman himself, Thomas Hayden Church. Alongside John, they battle through the treacherous roads, attempting to return back to New San Francisco. The show stays mostly fun in its absurd humor and over-the-top carnage. It doesn't take itself too seriously during the more flashier sequences, which showcase elaborate car chases and mega explosions. There's a heavy dose of CGI here, but it isn't distracting and blends together well in each of the new locations we travel to each episode. The carnage is pretty intense at times, especially when it comes to a certain character named Sweet Tooth, who pops in and out during the season. In the actual game, his name is technically Needles Kane, a maniacal clown who drives his signature ice cream truck. He is the face of the game, sporting his image on every cover over the years. He's essentially just called Sweet Tooth now, but you never wanted to have his sights on you, because he is Maximum Carnage. He is played on screen by wrestler Samoa Joe and voiced by Will Arnett. And he's a one-man wrecking crew, with a weakness toward show tunes and adoring fans.
I've never seen anyone cut off a human head and catch it as good as that.
Overall, Sweet Tooth isn't the all-out villain you could have expected for the show, but rather another side character who actually could be considered a good guy in the sense of the show's narrative. But he does have a backstory, as does most of our main cast, which the show uses to its full effect, framing episodes around the past of its leads to expand upon their characters' arc and development. For its humor, the show goes all in its gross-out one-liners and exaggerated situations. It's quite funny overall, in that sophomoric kind of way, filled with crass language and jokes. The story does try to get a bit serious from time to time, usually when dealing with the backstories. Each character has its own unique journey and reasons for where they are in this wasteland. Quiet has probably the most emotional experience losing her brother because of Agent Stone. By the time the final episode rolled around, I was left wondering if there were actually more than 10 chapters here because there was a whole lot to deal with and not a whole lot of screen time to get it done. Much to my surprise, the entire first season turned out to be much more ambitious than I expected. What we assumed was the origin story of John and Quiet is actually the origin story of that tournament that I spoke about in the beginning, that the game was built around. That mega trip that Raven sent John on was just the setup to much bigger things, and all these characters left standing that we meet along the way, well, allies in some regards, well, turns out they will all be facing off against each other in Season 2 for the ultimate challenge of their existence, which is a nice swerve and manages to build up some pretty good drama and anticipation. For its soundtrack, the show scores some pretty big songs, kind of staying true to the game's score. It never hits Guardians of the Galaxy and Quentin Tarantino levels of music, and it's missing one key Rob Zombie song, but there's enough nods to the source material with a few excellent moments sprinkled in to give it a passing grade. So overall, Twisted Metal Season 1 is a crass and carnage-filled video game brought to life. There are just enough of every formula thrown in there to keep things interesting throughout its journey. It started to feel a bit redundant at times once the episodic structure was revealed, but there's plenty of surprises along the way to kickstart the show back into the right track without too much downtime. John and Quiet are the stars of the show, with Sweet Tooth stealing or really destroying every second of his screen time. And the pair are written with some impressive nuance and believability, which helps elevate the season to a higher level. Raven bookends the season as the show's mastermind, which is great casting, as the always excellent Neve Campbell shines in a role that escapes the Scream world that she's most known for. It stays loyal enough to its video game source material, adding in some new things, but certainly not trying to cash in on just name recognition alone. So if you don't mind the over-the-top jokes and destruction, Twisted Metal is a breezy and entertaining show, armed with a great lead cast and some unexpected turns. I recommend Twisted Metal and give it 3.5 out of 5 stars. One wish for Season 2, which hasn't been announced yet but seems like a lock. Get that Rob Zombie song in there. Make it so.
Welcome to New San Francisco. I want to hire you. Pick up a package, bring it back. I can make your every wish come true. So, John, what do you wish for?